Hey guys, welcome back. In this session, we'll learn about what are the Infosys interview questions and answers which were asked in Infosys interview round one. So, we will see the first question is that what is batch apex? A batch apex is used to process a large sets of data asynchronously, that is in smaller batches to avoid your governor limits. इसका मतलब ये होता है कि हमारे पास लार्ज सेट्स ऑफ डेटा है उसको एसिंक्रोनसली चलाना है एंड इट विल ब्रेक डाउन योर डेटा एज अ स्मॉलर डिफॉल्ट साइज लाइक 200 एंड it will process the records as a batch of 200 and it will go on the execute method like सपोज वहाँ तुम्हारा लास्ट सेट्स ऑफ डेटा है और उस डेटा को एसिंक्रोनसली चलाना है तो यू हैव टू गो फॉर पैच अपेक्स ओके so what are the patch apex limits methods sorry what are the patch apex methods? So there are three methods, that is start, execute and finish. So coming to next question is that what is interface in patch apex? So while you were working on a patch apex, you define a class that implements a database or patchable interface. So this interface requires you to implement three methods, that is start, execute and finish. So suppose you have to implement a patch apex, so you need to implement that database or batchable interface in your class. Without implementing database dot batchable interface, you did not define your class as a batch apex. Okay, and what are the methods you used in the batch apex? Like there are three methods, that is start, execute and finish. That is start method is that at the you were called the start method at your beginning of the code, at the beginning of the batch process, and it is responsible for returning an iterable object or query locator that provides the records to be processed. इसका मतलब ये रहा कि हम क्वेरी से अपने सारे रिकॉर्ड्स को बल्क में लेकर आते हैं एंड उस प्रोसेस को भेजते हैं किसमें एग्जीक्यूट मेथड है, सो दैट योर रिकॉर्ड्स विल बी एग्जीक्यूटेड एसिंक्रोनसली. तो स्टार्ट मेथड सिर्फ हमारा यहीं तक रहता है कि हम क्वेरी लगाकर उस सारे रिकॉर्ड्स को एक बार में लेकर आओ. ओके, एंड एग्जीक्यूट मेथड तुम्हारा क्या करता है? दिस मेथड इज कॉल्ड for each batch of records returned by the start method, and it contains a logic to process the records. This means that your records will be runs in the in the batch of records, you have set your batch size as a 200, then it will process your records as a batch size of 200. It will take a list of records of a 200, and like you have 10,000 records though, so it will take a batch size like 5. Then the default batch size is 200. The 200 it means it will take 5 batch jobs. Okay, and the last one is finish method. The finish method is called after the all batches has been processed. So 5 batches like that, you when you your code has executed the 5 batches, then it will go for the finish method, and the finish method will inform to the user that it will generate some notifications mail that your process your batch jobs has been completed, and you have check your batch your apex job, you check your records again, like this double, like it's a post processing logics over that, it will generate a message over there. Okay, third question is that what is test dot start and is test dot stop? Start test and stop test are the standard test method which are available for the test classes only. Okay, only in test classes we have used that start test and stop test. So what is that? That is test dot start test and test dot stop test. So it will make the it will help you to reset your governor limits. So firstly question arises that what is governor limits? So governor limits is that, like in simple terms, that is you can say like that Salesforce uses a single database to store the data of multiple clients and customers, and to ensure that no single client monopolizes the shared resources. So Salesforce introduced the concept of governor limits in Salesforce, which is strictly enforced the Apex runtime engine. Okay, So that is like maintains test dot start test and test dot stop that maintains a fresh set of government limits. That is, these methods help you to reset your government limits. And the third point is that per test method we can use test dot test and test dot stop method only one time. Like in a class you have three methods: method 1, method 2, method 3. In the method 1 you can use only test dot startup at the beginning of the method 1 and test dot start at the end of the method 1. And if only once per test method we can use of the method only one time. And in the method 2 you can use same logic for that, that is test dot start test and test dot stop dot. Okay, to execute asynchronous method synchronously, we can call those methods from the inside of test.started and test.start test. So this method is help you to reset your governor limits, and you can uh, test your class without hitting your governor limits. Okay, once your test code runs between test.started and test.stop test, you must use that assert statements to the test where your actual code is executing correctly and the results are expected as giving. Okay, so the fourth question is that why we need to use test classes in Salesforce. So yeah, firstly question arises that why we need that, why we need to use test classes. Without using test classes can we deploy the code from sandbox to production? No, without writing a test class we cannot deploy the code from sandbox to production. At least you have a code coverage up to 75%, minimum code coverage up to 75%. You have to write a test class that is code coverage of your class at least 75%. Without writing your test class and without covering your code up to 75%, we cannot deploy your code from sandbox to production. Okay, so why we need that? Okay, so we need that. This means that it means it will not break the code from the production environment, and user can didn't handle that. It means that suppose user working on the production environment and the code breaks, it means that his performance like उसका काम सारा रुक जाएगा, like you mean to say that उसका सारा काम रुक जाएगा. And he did not use the Salesforce. So Salesforce without like you have to be test your code very much in the sandbox environment. Then after the code has to be executed properly, then your code has to be deployed from the sandbox to production. Okay, what is system dot run as? So system dot run as that, but that is by default your test classes run in a system mode, and you want that my test classes run only a user context mode. So we introduce yeah we introduce that is, you if you want to execute a piece of code in a certain user context, then we can use system.run as and bracket me user interface. This must be useful to that if you want your test class to be run in the user context mode, then you have to use your test class as a system.run as user mode, instance. Okay, and what there is another system that run as useful for that. It avoid mixed tml operation error, and we can include tml statement inside of system.run as, and still that error persists, keep dml statement inside of test.started and stop test. Use system.run as method to enforce OWT and provide profile related testings. That is, which is very important from the security point of view. Coming to next question, that is explain how we can create a lightning flow to send an email to customer. So here are the steps you can create a lightning flow to send an email to customer. Firstly, go to quick find bot. In the firstly, you have to go for setup object. In the setup object, go to quick find bot and search classic email template. Once you have created a classic email template, then go to email alert, set your criteria for that email alert, for which object you have to send an email, for which recipient type, like you want to add additional emails over there, and you want which, for which owner you have to send an email for the two purpose. Okay, so suppose there are three users, I want to send that email, so select that users and go to your net flows and select a record trigger flow and set your criteria for which conditions you have to generate and send an email alert over there. Question number 7 is how many batches can run at a time? So a maximum of 5 batch jobs can be submitted in case of a running test. There can be 250,000 batch apex method executions per day, or the number of user license in a organization multiplied by 200, which is ever is greater. Question number 8 is how many records can batch apex process at a time? So default batch size is 200, maximum number of records you can process is 2000, and minimum number of record you can process is default batch size is 1. Trigger scenario: write an apex trigger to create a number of records on a contact object based on entered value in the number of locations in the account object. Here the solution, that is trigger contact, create contact based on locations on account that is after update. And here I will use the list of contact to create contact to insert, and created a for loop that is trigger dot new if write a condition that if trigger dot old map not equal to null and the number of location not equal to trigger dot old map dot get acc dot id, that is number of locations, and if the number of locations greater than 0, then create for then we created a for loop for the integer I is equal to 0 and I less than, that is acc dot number of location, whatever the number of locations over that I put the number of locations as a 3. Okay, I write that 3, then it will iterate at the 3 object, that is 0, 1, 2 and 3. It will end that loop, and it before end the loop it create the 3 records in the content object. Yeah, so last question is that is why we use batch apex. Okay, so batch apex is used when you have a large sets of data and you want to execute your code as a asynchronously, that you can use a batch apex. So I hope you will understand my questions, and that is yeah, thank you, and please hit like and subscribe my channels. So yeah.